Hey guys, it's Kat and I am back today for what feels like a very long awaited video. So I did do a full face get ready with me using pretty much all Nabla products except for the bronzer. And I'm pretty much doing the same thing today. I'm wearing all Nabla products except for the bronzer and the eye primer. And I have been using a lot of Nabla products over the last, I'm going to say, month to 6 weeks. So I think at the end of December / early January, Nabla were so kind to send me a whole range of products to try, like the vast majority of their range. I think the things I'm missing out are like, I think bronzers, lip glosses, maybe blushes, but everything else they've pretty much hooked me up with, which I really, really appreciate. So yeah, I want to thank Nabla for sending all of this stuff over. I've been really enjoying playing with it. But this is sort of my recap of what I think about the products that I've tried over the last, like I said, maybe 6 weeks. I've been sort of dedicating some time to trying all these products. And I'm going to let you know what my top products from the range are and the products that I didn't love as much, and sort of what I think about everything in between. So like all of my reviews, I'm just gonna treat this as though I bought these products and what I think about them, because even though I do really appreciate PR, it makes it so much easier for me to access a lot more product to try. At the end of the day, I'm reviewing makeup. I'm not reviewing how I access the makeup. So yeah, that's what I'm doing today. I'm gonna give you a recap, what I think about a lot of the Nabla range. Now, if you're not familiar with Nabla Cosmetics, it's probably because they're an Italian brand. I think they have, like we've talked about them quite a bit on Beauty News when they release new palettes and whatnot. But I think outside of Europe, they're sort of less known. But a lot of their products are starting to get stocked at like Morphe, for example. So you can buy some of their products online at Morphe or in Morphe stores. I have seen a lot of these products in Australian Morphe store. So we have one in Melbourne, and not everything here is stocked there, unfortunately, but a lot of it is. So I think they're starting to infiltrate the world, hopefully, which is nice. So yeah, so some people will be really, really familiar with this brand if they're based around Italy. Other people may not have tried them at all. I will link a few places you can buy them because, like I said, you can buy them, well, Nabla website, obviously, Morphe stores and online. I think Beauty Bay sell quite a lot of them. I think if you're in the US, you can find a lot of it in Ulta, but these sites might not stock the whole range, which is unfortunate, but I guess if there's more demand for it, they will start stocking more. All right, so what I'm going to do is talk about every item that I've got here and let you know what I think about it. I'm going to start with sort of the order that I do my makeup in, and then at the end, I'll tell you like my top products that I think really, really stand out, and the products that I'm like, I probably wouldn't spend my money on, and everything else would sort of just fall in between. So yeah, let's start with the base products. All right, so I was able to try their foundation, their concealer, and 2 of their powders. So I'll start with the foundation. This is the Close Up Futuristic foundation. This launched, I think, about a year ago, and they have since, as in like maybe 2 weeks ago, extended the line. So I think originally they had 20 shades and now they have 30 shades. So the 2 shades that I was sort of using throughout the last however many weeks was a mix between L40 and L50, so they're light shades. I did find, that's what I'm wearing today, I did find that I need to mix them because L50 is a little bit dark for me, it's a little bit too pink, this is a little bit too light and a little bit too yellow, but mixed together it's perfect. In their shade expansion, they have actually added in an L45, which fits in between these two, which is great because that's probably my perfect shade. We received this in PR. This is just a mini. So from their website, you can buy the big bottles, which are 30 mils, or you can buy the 9.5 minis, which are really, really cute, probably good for travel. But this is probably spot on my shade these days, but I haven't opened it. I thought I'll just save it for like, if I do travel or if I do need to take, you know, a little bottle of foundation away with me. And since I've got these open, I've just been mixing the 2, which have been really good. So originally one issue that I did have with these foundations was that I had to mix 2 shades, but now that they've got a shade expansion, I think it'd be a lot easier to find your exact shade, which is really good. But pretty much these foundations, they describe them as being like a soft matte finish, which I do agree with. They're not super thick, but they almost give like a moussey sort of feel to the skin. So it's not very liquidy. It's sort of, yeah, it goes on and it's a little bit moussey. I would say it's a medium but buildable coverage. So I like these on just a daily basis. I'm wearing it today. I think it's got enough coverage for filming, but at the same time, you can sort of shear it down if you don't want a heavy coverage, or you can sort of build it up if you need a little bit more, but it's not full coverage and it's also not super light coverage, if you know what I mean. I think it's, since I do have that moussey formula, if you do want to shear it down a lot, you might find that it looks a little bit patchy because of that moussey semi-matte formula, but I think it's a really nice finish, and if you've got normal to oily skin, I think you'll really like this. Hayley has told me that she doesn't really get along with this foundation since being on like an Accutane type product because it dries out her skin. So dry skin people I wouldn't recommend it for, and really oily skin people I wouldn't recommend it for, because it's not one of those budge proof setting foundations. It's more of that moussey, comfortable, slight matte finish, but nothing too drying, if you know what I mean. So for me, this is more of an everyday sort of medium coverage foundation that gives a little bit of blurred sort of matteness to the skin, but nothing too budge proof, nothing too heavy duty, nothing too long wear. I don't have a problem with longevity with this, but I do foresee that like on days where if I'm really, really oily, probably won't hold up super well. But I think it's just a nice everyday foundation. Would I wear this to a music festival? Probably not. Would I wear this on a night out when I want to look absolutely perfected? Probably not. But I think daily basis, I find this to be a really nice sort of like reliable foundation, if that makes sense. Not like mind-blowing, but reliable. All right, onto the concealer, and this is the Close Up Stay Full Smooth Concealer. So this one, the packaging looks a little bit like Tarte Shape Tape. So I've seen a lot of people compare it to Tarte Shape Tape. I don't think it is comparable, but I just feel like the packaging sometimes makes people have that association, which, you know, it is what it is. This does have a really large applicator, which is kind of cool. Like, it's pretty big. So, you know, I just need to put a few dots on and around my nose, on my chin, and it blends out really nicely. The shade that I like to use is Light Peach. There are things that I really love about this and things that I think are limitations. So it's not, again, my perfect concealer, but it is a very easy to use concealer. So I prefer this on my face. I feel like it blends really nicely into foundation with a sponge or whatever you need to do. I think it just sort of blends perfectly. I think under the eyes, if you don't set it straight away, it can start to crease. And I don't usually have issues with creasing. But then again, if you set it with something that's probably a little bit too matte, I feel like it can sort of look a little bit patchy under the eyes. So I actually don't love this as an under eye concealer. I prefer it as a face concealer. But it does work really nicely with the foundation. And another thing I don't like about it is that it's strongly scented. So it's got a coconut scent, which is almost like coconut essence or coconut flavored alcohol or something. And I really don't like coconut scents. So for me, this hasn't been a pleasant experience using it. I have been using it because I want to try it, and the scent does dissipate, which is great. But if you don't like coconut or strong scented things, this will turn you off. Or if you find that you get a lot of creasing under your eyes, I probably wouldn't recommend it. But I think for the face, it's a nice concealer and it pairs really nicely with the foundation. All right, onto powders. I've got two types of powders here. I've got the Close Up Baking and Setting Powder, which is a loose translucent powder. I do like this powder. I think it's nice, and I think it does mattify the skin nicely. And if you do like to bake your face, which I don't really like to do, I think it's quite nice. I think it's a little bit drying on top of the concealer. So again, I feel like it sort of sets it looking a little bit gritty, but all over the face and with other concealers, I think this is really nice. My issue with this, so it's nicely finely milled and it's a nice translucent powder. My issue with this is that I find the holes to be too small in here, and you hear like doing one of these for the longest time and you get very little out. So I like the powder. I don't like the packaging, and it does sort of limit how much I use it. But when I can get it out, let's get it out. See, that didn't even get that much out. But when you can get it out, it is a nice translucent sort of mattifying setting powder, and it does work well with the foundation. So yeah, not my favorite because of the packaging, but it, you know, I might just have to take the sifter off. I do much prefer the pressed powder. So this is the Close Up Smoothing Pressed Powder. This is in the shade Light. So this is a tinted powder, does have a little mirror, so you can use it as like a touch-up sort of compact. And it is a nicely finely milled pressed powder, and it does add a little bit of coverage. So I haven't actually applied this today. I used the other one, but you can see that it's very, very smooth, but it does add a bit of coverage. So this one I would actually argue is more finely milled than the loose setting powder. I just don't, maybe that's my perception, but this one just feels really luxurious, and I prefer this one. So I dig this. All right, so we're gonna get on to face colors, and I think I wanna talk about this Illuminating palette that is probably the first thing that I didn't like from the range. And it's not that it's necessarily bad, it's just something that I don't reach for. So I've only used this a couple of times, and I just knew it wasn't really for me. So this is the Glimmer Light Multi-Reflective Illuminating Palette. So this is a 3-color palette. You get a really nice mirror, and you get these 3 shades here. There's a shimmery pink, a shimmery orange, and like a shimmery sort of cranberry color, and they are very, very sparkly. So for me, I just didn't really know how to use them. I did try to use the sort of orangey color as a bit of a blush. I tried to use that light color as a bit of a highlighter. You can use them as eyeshadows if you want. They are multi-purpose products, but they are very, very glittery, which, you know, is not a bad thing. It's just that it limits, in my opinion, how you can use them. So, yeah, look, I might have to zoom in so you can see, but there's like a distinct base color and then distinct glitter on the top. I've just tried to build them up a little bit more, but I will zoom in so you can see what I'm talking about. But essentially you can use these as glittery eyeshadows if you wanted to, but the tones aren't tones that I like to really wear. They're very orangey, very pink. And then if you were to use them as highlighters, blending them on, it just ends up looking like bits of glitter. And then using it as a blush, once again, you get a bit of a base color and then just sort of disperse bits of glitter. So I'm not saying the product's bad, I'm just saying that I don't really have a place in my life for it. So this was probably the main thing that I sort of tried a couple of times, and I was just like, no, it's not my cup of tea. So yeah, that's that. But hopefully you can see that they are very pretty. It's just that I can't really organically work them into my makeup routine. So if you're going for like a shimmery sort of blush highlight type product, or even eyeshadow from Nabla, I recommend these instead. These are really, really, really good. These are highlighters that came out, it was a few months ago now, so they're fairly new to the range, and they're called the Skin Glazing Glass Skin Finish Glow Powders, and there's 6 shades. This one's called Adults Only. It's a beautiful sort of cranberry color, so on really deep skin tones that like a sort of reddy sort of tone, that would be a beautiful highlighter. But if you use it sheerly, you can use it as a blush. I have done that before. If you want to use it as an eyeshadow, you can do that as well because they're really pigmented. Got the shade here, Lucent Jungle, which is like this beautiful copper shade. So again, if you've got deeper skin but you want a more gold tone, that'd make a beautiful highlighter. I'm actually wearing this as a blush today. I'm not sure if you can see, but there's a bit of I do have a highlighter on as well, but there's a bit of a bronzy sort of glow, and that's just me picking this up with a fluffy brush and just dusting it on the cheek. So again, this is not a shimmery product, it's more of a metallic product. So you can either build it up like an eyeshadow, which is gorgeous. I'm gonna just swatch these. I've taken off the other palette, so it's off my hand, but you can see that these are more of just your metallic. And so if you do want to blend something out, you can do that without it being too glittery or harsh. So yeah, so you can definitely build it up or blend it out, which is gorgeous. So like I said, I'm using this coppery one as a blush today. Another common one that I like to use as just a glowy blush was Truth. So this is more of a peachy pink shade. So it's very, very gorgeous. So again, if you've got slightly deeper skin, you can use that as a highlighter. Otherwise, you can use it as a really beautiful blush, and it gives just an luminosity, like a peachy luminosity. They blend really nicely, so they don't look patchy on the skin. So gorgeous. Then we have some more traditional highlighter shades for me anyway. So this one is Amnesia, which is the gold. This is the one that I'm actually wearing as a bit of a highlight, or just on the tops of my cheekbone and on my nose. So you can see it gives a beautiful wet look, but then anything below that is the diffused sort of copper shade as like a blush. But that is just your typical sort of champagne gold, which is, again, really, really pretty. Privilege is really beautiful. It's like a soft peach color. So if you like cooler tone shades, but you don't want anything too icy, this one's really, really pretty as well. And then the most cool tone one would be Ozone. So they all look quite similar swatched here. I've just wiped off my hand so we can put it on here, but we've got the gold one. So it just looks like a wet look gorgeous highlighter. We've got the peachy one, which has that sort of softer peach glow to it. Doesn't have a base color, which is really pretty. And we have that cooler toned Ozone one. So they give you that wet look, but there's just different, so there's different like undertones to it and different depths. So those are the more traditional ones that are really, really pretty. So just for good measure, I thought I'd swatch the other ones. So we've got that coppery shade, that sort of cranberry shade, and that peachy shade. I use these as blushes. If you're deeper skin, you can use them as highlighters. I'm not really catching the light with them at the moment where I've swatched them, which is unfortunate, but they are beautiful and they do catch the light, or you can use them as eyeshadows. So I would prefer to use these than what's in that sparkly palette. I reckon they should have put this formula in that palette. But yeah, they're really, really beautiful. They do, like, I think they apply really nicely and really smoothly. And, you know, if you do put a lot on, they can emphasize skin texture because they're highlighters, but I find that they are a lot more flattering than a lot of other highlighters out there. And again, they're really versatile. So you can build them up, use them as an eyeshadow, use them as a blush, use them as a blush topper. They're gorgeous. All right, now for probably the hardest part of testing everything was the eyes, because look how many eyeshadow palettes they have. I think these are all of them in their range, and I haven't used every single shade, but I have used every single palette, and I've tried to use them a couple of times. So I'm going to run through the palettes and let you know what I think. But I think, look, I'll show you the palettes and then I'll give you an overall thoughts on the formula, because again, I haven't used every single shade and every single palette, so I can't give you like an in-depth review of each one, but I do want to show them to you. Okay, so to start off with, we've got these little mini palettes, which I really like. So we've got the Cutie palette number 1, which is the Nude, and it's one that like a lot of people are going to find boring, but I really loved using this. And it does have some really unique formulas in here. So a couple of them are these cream formula. They remind me a little bit of the Natasha Denona cream formula in the Metropolis palette. Not quite, but they are definitely sort of Super Shock shadowish. So they are creams, but they can apply with like a fluffy brush or apply like a normal eyeshadow, but they are creams. So I find that a little bit unusual, but also really, really pretty. I love this palette mainly for the middle 2 shades though. These are these beautiful, they remind me a bit of like the fancy Pat McGrath, you know, those really impressive looking shimmery eyeshadows that they put in to make people buy the big palettes. They sort of remind me of those, and they're gorgeous. They're so gorgeous on the lid. So you get, there's a bronzy color in this and more of a pinky tone, and they're just really beautiful. They're probably the things that I reach for that palette the most, and then I just use like the other shades to complete the look. So yeah, they've got some really interesting formulas in this, and I can see myself just using this like, you know, as an everyday look, or taking away with me if I'm going traveling somewhere, and I can easily just, you know, pair 2 shades or 2 shades or whatever it happens to be to create just an easy nude look. So I really like this palette. Then we've got the Cutie palette number 2, which is the coral one. I didn't use this one as much just because of the shades. I think there's some beautiful shades in here, but again, it's a little bit deeper and a little bit more colorful. I'm not really a pink person, so a lot of these pinks didn't really work on me, but again, there's some really interesting like formulas in this. So for example, we've got I Got You and we've got Mandarin, and these are just these beautiful sort of really sparkly topper type shades. There's also this red shade, which is, haven't actually used, but it's gorgeous. It's a shimmery red and it's really, really beautiful. So there's some really special shades in this. And the colors do work nicely together. I have used this palette like those 2 shades or those 2 shades. This matte is quite pink. So if you like that kind of corally pink tone, these are really pretty. My camera just cut out, but these topper shades are really, really gorgeous, and that red is divine. So some of the formulas in here, like I sort of wish I could just take out a few of the formulas, put them in a palette that I just want to reach for every day, because like this one here, which I'll zoom in and show you, It's such a beautiful, just like wash of light reflective sort of shimmer that I can imagine myself wearing every day with a bit of liner, and it just would make your eyes glow. So I just thought I'd zoom in and show you how beautiful those formulas are. So that's from the Nude palette. These are from that Coral palette, and that goldy sort of peachy nude base one is so divine. You can even blend it out to make it like a little bit more sheer. It's just gorgeous. Even this pink is really, really pretty. Like, it's a cool tone pink and it's quite vibrant, but you could layer it over something just for a bit of like sparkle. They're really gorgeous. Look at that red. So yeah, I think these are smart little palettes. I reach for this one quite a lot, but if you like a bit more color, this one's a really good option. And there's some really interesting formulas and textures in there. All right, onto some of their bigger palettes. The one I'm actually wearing today is the Soul Blooming palette, and I think it's really, really beautiful. So this is actually a mix of sort of nudes, and like lilac-y blue colors. So what I'm wearing today is I'm wearing this shimmery brown all over my lid. I'm blending it out with this just basic sort of transition matte color. And then on my lower lash line, I've got this shimmery, beautiful duochrome color. So it flashes like, sort of looks like this periwinkle blue, but then flashes pink. I don't know if you can see. So in the mirror, now it's looking pink, but now it looks blue. So it's this beautiful duochrome, and it's either pretty on its own or it's pretty layered on top of something. It's such a gorgeous color. So I've got that on the inner corner, and I've also popped some of this matte shade on the lower lash line and transitioned it with some of the dark brown in the outer corner. So I've gone brown and these two colors, and I think the combination's really, really beautiful. So I thought I'd show you that close up before I move on, but you can see there's that sort of duochrome. I use some of the matte, I use some of the browns, and I think it's a really nice sort of combo. So yeah, I think the quality of this is really nice. The mattes are nice and pigmented. They blend nicely. I haven't used all colors. I do like the color story where there's some like basic nudes, some sort of more pinky, corally tones, and these sort of cool tone bluey, almost purpley tones, like, but they're quite unique. I like that there is a few duochromes in here. So we have different textures again. You have some standard shimmers, you have some mattes, and then you have, of course, this duochrome, which I really love. There's also this one down here, which just looks like a basic shimmer, but it is a duochrome. It's almost like a champagne color, but it's got a greenish shift to it. I'm not sure if you can see, but I will swatch it. And then up here, we've got an even different texture. It's more of a chunky texture. Now, this some people will love. I don't love it. I find it a little bit flaky on the like to apply. So again, this is more just coming down to your personal preference, but they all do add something special and different dimensions to the palette. So we've got that sort of duochrome pink, purple, bluey type color. We have this one that just looks like your basic champagne, but it does have a green sort of pink shift, which is really interesting. And then we have good old chunky over here, which if you do buff in, it can create this really pretty, I don't know, icy white that's got like a peachy shift to it. So these can add a bunch of dimension to the palette, which is beautiful. It's just about, if you like the formula. I've just got some mattes here as well, just to sort of demonstrate. Look how beautiful that matte is. It's just, they apply really softly. They're nice pigmentation. You can sort of build them or diffuse them. So I really like the versatility that the different textures and the different formulas give the palette. All right, let's get through these quicker because I'm taking too long. So I've got the Dreamy and the Dreamy Two palette. So again, this is just one of the same sort of size palettes. They're 12-pan palettes, and they're similar concept, just different color stories. So the color story of this one is more sort of muted. It's got some rosy tones, some sort of more mauvey tones, as well as some goldy tones. So this is more of a muted palette if you like that color story. There is a really secret, like gorgeous duochrome in here. So it's the top one there that looks purple on camera, but see how it looks kind of red now? Purple to red. It's actually really, really beautiful. This is one that I don't like. It's so blackened that I don't really wear it often, but it is one of those things that it's kind of a bit special. Then the shade in the corner here is sort of like an iridescent icy white that has that gold sort of shift to it. This one is a little bit heavier, so you can see it's quite pigmented, and it can probably look a little bit frosty on the eye, but it does have a beautiful sort of gold shift. So those are a little bit different and a little bit unique. See, as I'm looking at it now, I can see like burgundy and gold, whereas if I hold it up like this, it's more like purple and silvery or white. So they're quite unique, but so it adds a little bit of difference to this palette, but otherwise you can create some really nice basic looks by like pairing those two shades together. These are just sort of like those rosy sort of nudes. Or if you prefer a bit of a purple combo, you can go these two shades. So, you know, it is quite a wearable palette with a little bit of pop of interest. So yeah, that's the Dreamy One palette. So again, quality is really nice. Different textures going on. It's just about if you vibe with that color story. The Dreamy Two is one that I haven't used too much, but this is their most recent palette and they have played around with texture a lot more. So what they've done here is they've got some like pressed glittery shades and also more of those moussey shades. So like down here, for example, this is one of those moussey shades that they put in like that Nude palette. So it's very yeah, it's like a suede sort of formula. It's really interesting. Yeah, it's going to be down to your personal preference if you like that, but that's a gorgeous color. So this one is a little bit more, I would say, rich and vampy. So it does have this, I haven't used this shade yet, but this is again that sort of suede formula. It's like a black color. We have some almost, these are again sort of that metallic shade that is in that Nude palette in the middle pans, like that shimmery but wet formula. There's a few more here. We've got some pressed glitters in here. So again, this palette is just taking things to a different textural element. I find this to be a little bit too blue and dark for me on a daily basis, but there are some gorgeous shades that I will reach for when I'm going out, like this REM shade. I also really love REM because I used to be a sleep scientist, so you know, REM sleep is an important thing. So if you're into different textures and you're like playing around, like that is like it looks black in the pan, but it's this dark, beautiful, cool toned like purple. I love that. This is, oh, look at that formula. That sort of creamy metallic formula is gorgeous. We've got some glitter down here. Some more glitter here. So, and these do grip to the skin pretty well. So if you like texture and depth, probably Dreamy Two is for you. But again, this is not a palette that I reach for on the daily. It is more of a special sort of add something interesting, but I really do like the elements of texture. Then we've got the Secret palette, which is probably one of my most used ones just on a daily basis. This is an older palette, so again, it's got some duochrome type shades, but it doesn't have those pressed glitters or those moussey interesting ones, which sort of tickle my fancy these days. This is more of a basic palette. It's got like a warm row down here. So these are more gold tones. We've got some more neutral nudes and some pinks. And then you have some greeny teal sort of colors and some browns going down there. So obviously, I think this is the palette that I demonstrated in my Get Ready With Me. I really like the nudes, the browns. These warm ones are really nice as well. And I like the teals. I haven't actually used the pinks because they're not my cup of tea. But again, you do have some duochromes. This one and this one are those sort of interesting duochromes. This one is a gold that sort of has a pink shift to it, and then this one is a white that's got this sort of like teal shift to it, so it does work really nicely with that row. I think these are a little bit chunky, but you can see that they do add a really nice element to the palette and they're really pretty. But yeah, if you like your basic nudes but you also like a pop of teal, I think this is a really well balanced palette because the teal does go well with a lot of these shades. If you want to inject some pink, it does go well, and these are actually really pretty. Like, look at that. It's gorgeous. But then I also just love like your basic sort of taupe color, which is probably my most used color from this palette. They just so easy to wear on a daily basis. Look at that. Gorgeous. All right, then we've got the Poison Garden palette. And again, this is, I think, from last year. Admittedly, I haven't used this one too much because again, like I feel like there's a few double ups with other palettes. There's a lot of sort of matte nudes that are pretty basic to just get in the other palettes. But there are some beautiful shades. So this, if you like a blue, oh, Jesus Christ, it's a beautiful blue. Haven't used that blue. But there's some nice sort of wine colors. This is once again more of a sort of, I'm going to say this is more of a deeper palette, more, you can create more sort of smoky looks from it. This red is gorgeous if you love a sort of red matte. Their mattes are really, really gorgeous. And then this one up here is a beautiful, one of those duochromes again. So it's almost, it's like white that shifts sort of like a purpley color. Look at those. Those just swatched so beautifully. So you can see that the matte formula is nicely pigmented. It just glides on really, really well, and I really like that pop of interest that they put in each palette. I'll just swatch some of the basic shimmers just to show you. So yeah, those shimmers apply really beautifully as well. They're really, really lovely. Again, I would say this is more of a sort of going out smoky with a pop of red or a bit of blue or a bit of purple. I love this kind of color. This is like my ideal deepening shade. This sort of berry matte purple is just, you're gorgeous. So yeah, if I was going for something a little bit more dramatic, I think that's what I'd call it. This is more of a dramatic palette. So yeah, even though I haven't been able to use every shadow in every palette, I think their quality is really nice across the board. I think their mattes are really nice, really nicely pigmented. Even the bright colors, for some reason, just apply really nice and vibrantly, like that matte teal is a beautiful shade. I think I did demonstrate that in my Get Ready With Me. Their metallics just apply really nicely. Their shimmers apply really nicely. And then they have started experimenting with these interesting sort of like suede, wet, almost Super Shock shadow type texture, which are really interesting. And I really, really, really adore the shades that are in the Dreamy Two and like the Cutie palette, those sort of wet, shimmery metallic shades here. I think they are so gorgeous. They just give such a nice, highly reflective, really almost high-end look. So I do think that there are some formulas in here that I don't really vibe with. So some of the duochromes are a little bit chunky and that's not my cup of tea, but I do appreciate them having them in there because it adds a lot of versatility to the looks, a lot of textural differences. And that's what I like about eyeshadows. I do like a balance of nudes and a bit of color, which all these palettes pretty much tend to do. But I think where they stand out as being really impressive is they've just got a variety of textures, which can really change or enhance looks. I'm sick of palettes that are like all matte or all matte and a bit of shimmer, or you know, all shimmer with two mattes. Like, you know, these actually push the envelope a little bit with trying to get different textures in there, and I really dig it. So yeah, I would just say if you're interested in trying these, you probably won't be disappointed in the formula. They're not like the most outstanding formula in the world, but they create really beautiful looks. And if you like a color story, give it a go. You don't need all of them, just putting it out there. But they are, yeah, they're really sort of solid palettes. All right, well, that took a long time. I feel like the sun's going down. We need to brighten this a little bit. I didn't realize that talking about the eyeshadows would take so long, but they have. So anyway, on to other eye products. So I have eyeliners here and a mascara. So to be honest, I've only used 2 of these pencil liners. So they have the Velvetline, which is a black pencil. This is a really beautifully creamy black pencil. I use it on my waterline. It's beautiful. Super black, super creamy, super matte. Yeah, I really like that. I've got that on my waterline today. They also have these nude pencils. So these are called magic pencils, and these would be sort of like versatile pencils that you can use on your eyes. You can probably use them near your brows to tidy up your brows. If you wanted to correct your lip line, you can sort of do that with these. Just find a color that suits you the best. I have only opened the dark nude one because I don't really like these really harsh light ones. So we've got a light nude and also a nude, but there are 3 shades. And I've mainly only used this on my waterline. So again, it's a nice creamy color. And if I just wanted to brighten up a little bit of, or even correct your liner or whatever it happens to be, these are pretty handy. I'm just not a huge nude liner person. So I only need like 1 in my collection and I'm cool for like 5 years, but they do have a few of them. One thing I just wanted to mention about these, like the quality is quite nice, but for me with pencil liners, My least used shades are probably black and nude because I prefer a liquid or gel liner on my top line, and then I like to use like a brown pencil on my waterline. So black is a little bit too harsh for me, nude is a little bit too harsh for me in both directions. So yeah, so even though they are nice quality, I don't really use them too much. What did impress me more was their liquid liner. So this is their cereal liner, and this is made in Korea, which is great because Korean liquid liners are beautiful. I'm wearing this today. It doesn't bleed on me, which is great because I find that half of the liquid liners that I try sort of bleed on my inner corner. They either bleed straight away when I put it on, or throughout the day I notice that they start to disperse and fade away. So I think my eyes are just a little bit too watery for a lot of liquid liners, which is why I often go gel. But this one's beautiful. The tip is very, very fine. It's a brush tip applicator. It's easy to clean. So if you get any eyeshadow on there that really sort of clogs it up, you can just wipe it on like a baby wipe or something, or a paper towel to clean it. And it gives this beautiful black line, and you can do really, really fine tip work because it is such a fine applicator. So it's a beautiful liner, very black. It does dry down to more of a glossy finish though, but it's really beautiful. So I'm wearing it today. I really enjoy it. I think this is one of their gems from the collection. Really, really nice. And it's got the ball in there as well. So if you feel like you need to get some of the ink flowing, you can just shake it, easy to do. One thing I'm a little bit on the fence about is their mascara. So they've got the Major Pleasure mascara. Now this is an interesting one because they do package it in a really big box. So look, I've kept a box of packaging in case I need to refer to the packaging for any reason. But this is the packaging of the mascara, which is it's a bit extreme. They've got a lot of claims on here, like 100% achieved dramatic volume, 94% saw extended lash length, 97% said their eyes look bigger. Like, that's what mascara does. It paints your lashes, so of course it's going to look bigger and thicker. But yeah, so I'm a little bit on the fence about this one. I think it works really well. So I'm wearing it today with no lashes. So the lashes that I have are just this. And there are things I like about it and things I don't love about it. I like the shape of the wand. So the shape of the wand is almost slightly hourglass. So it does sort of help sort of like cup the lashes a little bit. But I do find that it holds too much product. So I do find that the best way to apply it is to scrape some off. You'll also find that as you take it off, there might be a chunk here that you might want to take off, because I find that you can apply too much. And if you do apply too much, your lashes do clump together a little bit. But otherwise, if you apply a nice amount, less amount, you can get some nice sort of like feathery looking lashes. One thing I thought that was interesting about this, and it sort of really impressed me until I realized, I don't know if this is actually something that is beneficial or not. You can hear it's got a ball in there. And originally I was like, that's great, because normally with mascaras, I find that you can use it and scrape around the sides, but then they'll get to a point where you've got a chunk of mascara in the base and you can't access it. And so I'm like, this is really good because you can mix it up and access all of the mascara. Like the ball can maybe move it around the wand. So when it's starting to dry out, you can shake it and it can sort of like move it around and you can get a nice like application. But then I realized it's also in the lid. And then when I was playing with this, it doesn't feel like it moves much beyond the base. So I don't know if they just put in little balls in the top and the bottom to give the perception that you're shaking it, or if it's actually doing something. Because if you do this, you're like, yeah, but I feel like it's just in the top. So yeah, I'm a bit funny about this mascara. I think it works. It doesn't flake on me, but I usually don't have issues with flaking. And I think it gives a good effect. But again, you need to scrape off product to not have it clump together. So I do like it, but I'm not like madly in love with it. If I look a little bit different, it's because I just had a really long lunch break. So oops-a-daisy. It is much later in the afternoon now. You can see that the makeup has worn pretty well. I did touch up some sunglasses marks because I was outside. Reapplied lippy, but let's get back into the review of the product. All right, so I was up to eyebrows and I've tried 2 eyebrow products. So the first thing is the Brow Pot. So this is in the shade Neptune, which is a medium ash shade. So it's just like a brow pomade. I actually really like this pomade. It is like, how do I say? It's sort of like it's quite wet and moussey, but it's not super opaque. And that sounds strange, but it also makes it more versatile. So if you put it on, you can actually sort of blend it out a bit, which, you know, you don't obviously put on product like that on your brows, but it does sort of sheer out. So if it's not just like a block brow type thing, you can put it on, you can mimic hairs because it is quite wet and easy to do. Or you can put it on lightly for a bit of color, or you can build it up. And that's what I sort of like about it, because I find a lot of pomades, you put it on and instantly it looks like that. And you kind of go, ugh, now I've got really bold brows. But this one you can actually just sort of, yeah, it's really sort of easy to sheer out, which is handy. And it just allows you, like I said, to sort of build it up or put a small amount on to shape your brows and then go in with a second layer to sort of mimic hairs. So yeah, I don't always use brow pomades to do my brows, but I do quite like how this one is not too bold, if that makes sense. And it does wear really well all day. Like I've had it on all day and it's looking good. And then I've also tried the Brow Divine pencil in Neptune. So again, this is the same color. And this is just one of your sort of micro brow pencils. It's, you know, it's sort of like a firm, drier micro brow. So you can sort of mimic hairs, which I like to do. So I like to put a product on, then I like to go in and sort of just mimic hairs at the front, maybe define the brow a little bit so it works well. I think for me, this is not my favorite brow pencil. I find it's probably a little bit too firm. Like the color is really good. This Neptune color is great for my coloring, but it is a little bit drier. I like something that's slightly more creamy so I can mimic hair without having to like really work at it. So yeah, very usable, don't mind it, but it's not like my favorite. All right, on to lip products. Now this is probably where I've got most used out of the Nabla range because I like to change up my lip product every day. I like to find new formulas that I really like. I'm going to start with the formula that I actually like the least because I think these are the most well known. So these are the Dreamy Matte Liquid Lipsticks. I have seen these in store at Morphe, so if you were interested, I have seen them in Melbourne in store, and I've got 5 shades here. This one is the one that I've used the most, but I've got the shades there. So you can see this is the one that I've used the most, which is the sort of True Nude, which is a shade Zen. Then we've got more of a peachy pink nude, which is called Closer. We've got more of that sort of orangey mid-toned nude, which is the shade Broadway. We've got 2 berry shades here that are sort of very, very similar. One is called Kernel and one is Noblesse Oblige. So I think that's that one. But the one that I use the most is this one there, Zen. So these do set down matte, and they are matte liquid lipsticks. They're pretty on the lips. They're quite opaque. They're quite bold. My issue with them is that after a while, they start to feel a little bit heavy on the lips. So I remember there was a time where I was wearing this one and I went to a cafe and I was sort of having a coffee and doing whatever. And then I just felt like I really had the impulse to like wipe it off because it was sort of just balling up a little bit and getting a little bit heavy. So for me, these aren't the most comfortable liquid lipsticks. They're very pretty, but I just don't reach for them. So again, I sort of only reach for this shade, and even then I sometimes like to put a lip gloss over the top because they're just, yeah, they're beautiful and they give a good effect, but I don't love them. What I do love, and I love this wholeheartedly, and I've used these a heck of a lot in the past 6 or so weeks, is the creamy Dreamy liquid lipsticks. So the packaging looks like this. So they're in their own sort of little box instead of that open window type thing. And they have these designs on them. Hang on. So the matte ones are the frosted packaging up the top, and then the creamy Dreamy have that sort of gold sort of star and moon design on it. And these ones are the magic ones. So those are the 6 shades that I have. I love the nudes. I might actually zoom in so you can see the colors because it's sort of hard to see. But you can see the top ones are very set matte. These stay sort of shiny and creamy. So the shades going from this side through to that side, we've got Hedonist, which is probably my most used nude because it's sort of like a warm but mid-toned beautiful nude. Then we have Adam's Dream, which is more a little bit darker, a little bit more red. We've got Eve, which is more of a peachy tone. This sort of purpley toned one is called My Rules. This one looks quite red on camera, but it's more of a muted orangey red. It's quite a nice fall color, but it is a muted red. That one's called Mood for Love, and I love, love, love this dark red one over here, which is called Vicious. So my most used ones are this one and that one over there. They are glorious. So what makes these so great is that they've got like full pigmentation. So they do like blank out the lips. They look really, really gorgeous. The shades are really pretty and really, really, really flattering, but they stay creamy. So they're hydrating on the lips. They don't feel dry and uncomfortable. And they sort of settle down to, like if you apply quite a lot of them, they can be quite shiny, but they do settle down to more of your traditional lipstick finish. So that's sort of just, I don't know, creamy lipstick finish, but they last really, really well. The dark red one is gorgeous, and it's not one that you sort of need to babysit. So once you've got it on, you might want to make sure that you've removed like the center part, like doing one of these ones, something like that, to remove the lipstick to make sure it doesn't go on your teeth. But it doesn't migrate out of the lip line. I find that I don't smear it everywhere when I'm eating. I just find these to be really, really beautiful, really comfortable, really long wearing, and you don't have to babysit them. There's been times where I'll wear one all day and I look in the mirror and I'm like, oh, I should really reapply. And I'm like, no, that actually looks really great. It might fade down slightly so it's not as opaque, but it still looks quite bold on the lips. It still looks really, really beautiful, and it still is really comfortable. So these are some of my favorite liquid lipstick formulas. And I'm not saying matte liquid lipstick because these aren't matte, but your sort of glossy liquid lipstick, creamy liquid lipstick, these are gorgeous. I love these so much. I definitely think that out of my collection of products like this, these are some of the best that I've tried. So this is definitely one of my favorite products from Nabla, hands down. I want to see some bright colors from them. I want to see some more muted, sort of like this tone of nude, which is the next product. But I want to see some brighter colors. I want to see some like lighter nudes. I just love these. These are fantastic. All right, the last lip products that I've been trying, and these are my second favorite, are actually these bullet lipsticks. Now these are called Cult Matte Soft Touch Lipstick. So I've got one still in the tube because it is a pinky nude color and it's not a color I'm gonna wear. I often get people saying, Kat, you suit every lip color. I don't. I just avoid the ones that I don't like this pink is, I would never wear. So I'm gonna keep it in the packaging and pass it on to my mum or something instead of like me using it and then making it harder to pass on. So yeah, that one I'm not gonna use. This is the shade Party in Paris, but the other ones I have been using, and I've been using them a lot. So I really like these. These are really great. So they're really pretty bullets. They're like metallic rose gold, sort of pinky, and they've got these like feather designs on them. And these are matte lipsticks, and the formula isn't amazing, but the colors are really, really beautiful. I'm going to swatch these. I'm currently wearing the shade Backbeat, which is the one that I love the most. It's like a cool toned nude, and I will swatch them on my hand so you can see how they look. But these nudes I like a lot more than these tones of nudes. So even though I love this formula the most, I love some of the tones in here, and I can't pass them up because they're really beautiful. All right, so I've got the shades that I've been using on the top there. So this is the shade that I'm wearing today, which is more of a cool tone nude. You can see that it is a lot lighter. So if you compare these three to these ones down here or even here, they are a lot lighter in color, but I think they're really, really beautiful and flattering. So the first one, like I said, is Backbeat. And it is this sort of like, almost looks grayish purple in the tube, but it's such a beautiful color. I just love it. And I love pairing it with like cooler tone eyes. I think it's just really, really gorgeous. Then I've got the shade Lust, which is more of a warm toned nude there. And then I've got the shade Chloe, which is lighter than what I've got on, and it's slightly more peachy. So this is quite a light nude. It's probably verging on not quite concealer lips, but it's the lightest I can probably go while it's still looking flattering, but it is surprisingly flattering. Then we've got more of a sort of autumn orangey nude red. So this one is really pretty as well. So that's that one. This is called Nolita. And lastly, there's a bright red, which of course I love. So you can see that that is more of a muted red. That's a bright red. And this is the shade Fool Me, which is gorgeous. Again, look at it. It's beautiful. So I really love these. I love the color variety in here more than I like in the bottom two formulas. The thing about these, but look, I really love them because they're really flattering on the lips and the color choices are spot on. The nudes, if you like a slightly cooler tone nude or a slightly lighter nude, are really flattering nudes. They don't lean too pink. They don't lean too like, I don't know, Barbie-like. They just are such flattering colors. The thing is though that the formula you need to sort of play with to make sure you get it right. So I would say these are a drier, more moussey consistency of a lipstick. So they're not super creamy. They don't set on the lips. They do look quite matte, but they are more of a, I don't want to say a powdery formula, but they are, yeah, it's sort of like a moussey formula that can, if you're not careful, it can look a little bit chunky. So what I like to say is you put it on and then you sort of like buff it in on the inner rim, because it does have the tendency to sort of have that divide between your natural lip color and the product. It doesn't sort of like, I don't know, you need to sort of just blend it in a little bit just on the inner part. And if you do that, they look gorgeous. They last a long time. They don't smear everywhere. But again, yeah, there's a little bit of a learning curve with applying them properly, but the colors are gorgeous. Those nudes I reach for all the time, especially this backbeat one, which I love. So yeah, I love these the most because the formula is outstanding. I love the colors of these and how it looks on the lips, but there's a little bit of a learning curve. And these, yeah, not my fave. All right, last thing from the Nabla range that I wanted to talk about were their tools, because I do have a sponge, I do have their brushes, and I love their brushes. I think their brushes are so beautiful. I actually had to wash all of these yesterday just to be able to show them to you today. There is a pack of eyeshadow brushes. They work well. There's an angle brush in there. So there's a pack of brushes. They work well. They're nice and soft. They have nice shapes. No complaints, but I particularly love their face brushes. So there is a foundation brush, which is sort of like one of those buffing type brushes. I don't mind this. I just don't really use foundation brushes, but these sort of powder and these are fantastic. So I love the design of them as well. They've got this sort of brushed gold effect, and the ferrules are really long, so you don't have to worry too much about getting water in here and like having it lift. Like it's a really beautiful design. Some of them have these sort of peachy color at the base. Some of them are all gold, and they're beautiful. They're beautiful. They're super soft, and the shapes are really nice. So we have the big powder brush, which is beautiful for powder. I like it for bronzer. I like it for blush. I like it for powder. I like it for whatever. It's a really nice soft. I like that it's also, it's a little bit flat. So it's a little bit tapered. So if you wanted to, you can use it as like contour, or you can sort of pat on powder. So it's got sort of a thinner side and it's got a wider side. And I just think it's a really beautiful powder brush. Probably my favorite brush, and I've mentioned this in my favorites, is the Cheek Shaper. So this is a brush that is really nicely tapered, as you can see. And it's really great for bronzing and contouring. You can do powder as well or highlighter, but I find that if you put the bronzer just on the tip of the brush and then you just put it here and you work it in, not only do you get that precise sort of put the product where you want it most, but then you've got the nice blending action, and it pretty much applies bronzer itself. You don't really need to put much effort into it. I demonstrate this in my Get Ready With Me using Nabla products. It's just such a beautifully crafted, like shaped brush. So easy to use. Then we've got two sort of flat brushes that I think are like, they're different, but they are sort of similar. This one's a little bit thinner and a little bit less dense. This is the Precision Powder Brush. So if you want to set like under here with powder, you can get right in there, which is really great. I also like using this for highlighter. I think it works really nicely. One that's a little bit more dense, but a similar shape is the Bonnie Mine brush, and I mainly just use this for powder. I use it for blush. I can even use it for bronzer. They're just really nice brushes. Then lastly, there's a highlighter brush, and this is a really beautiful brush. It's you know, if you want to put a precise amount of highlighter on, this is a good one to go for. So it's sort of like a tapered brush a little bit, and you just have to put a little bit on. So for example, today I used this just to get the product where I wanted it, but then I used a bigger brush to sort of put the blush on, if that makes sense. So I put the blush on, then I went and I thought, oh, I want a little bit of lightness there. So if you like a precise highlighter, this is a really, really nice brush. When it comes to their sponge, this is actually a really nice feeling sponge. So you can see it's been used. This is not wet anymore, but it was wet. So it's a little bit damp. So it's a little bit bigger than what it normally is dry, but it's a little bit smaller than what it is when it's wet. But this is a nice soft sponge. I like using this part for foundation because it works a treat. I use this for concealer, and I just found that what happens is, because it doesn't have like a precise point, as you can see, it's sort of like flat up the top, I feel like it doesn't get under there well enough. So if you want to get concealer or product right into certain little areas, I don't feel like this is precise enough, but I do like using the bigger areas, for foundation. So it's nice as a foundation thing, but the point I don't love. So this sponge, I'm like lukewarm on. It works, it's nice, but I like a sponge to do sort of everything, and I want a precise point to really get in there, and I find that this one I struggle with a little bit. All right, so that ended up being a lot longer than I expected. So what I might actually do is take a bit of a break, split this into 2 videos, and I'm gonna talk about my top 5 products from the range and maybe bottom 3 products in the next video. So thank you so much for watching. I will see you in the next one. And let me know if you've tried any of these products and what you think about them, what your favorites are, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye.